Good morning, everybody. We're really excited to have you. Thank you so much for joining us. Today, we're going to talk about some top trends in cyber, but more importantly, we're going to get all of your questions answered, anything that you might want to ask. And we're really lucky because we have Jeremy Schrum from Access Insurance with us. He is incredibly qualified, and he's here to answer any of your questions. So before we begin, I just want to tell you that there is a chat box on your screen. If at any time during the presentation you have a question, if at any time during the Q&A you have a question, please put it in the chat box and Jeremy and I will answer it. Also, if we don't get time to answer all of your questions, because we're going to keep this to 30 minutes, I'll be sure to follow up with everyone, including participants, to let them know about all of your excellent questions. So without further ado, we're going to get started. Okay. We have with us today Jeremy Schrum. He's been with Access for quite a long time, and he is the head of both their cyber product. He works with tech. He does MPL. He does media liability. He's a lawyer, so he has lots of great stories. And of course, he's really great with claims. So we're really excited to have him.
Thank you, Ellie. So thanks for everybody for joining. I absolutely want to make this interactive, so please, the chat, any questions will supersede what I'm talking about. But really, the topic is trending topics in cyber with a heavy emphasis on how do we do that, how do we sell it, and why the Access product is a good one. But more importantly, why getting to the Access product via the Wingman site is so important. So I'm going to start with our kind of script of issues that are kind of most important and are keeping us up at night right now. But please interrupt me and ask questions along the way. So the first bullet point here is the continued rise of ransomware. So Access, as of last October, Access acquired Novi. So we are now the third or fourth largest cyber carrier in the U.S. We have about I try to do a kind of a rough count, about 300,000 policyholders, and that's just annual policies. So we, of course, think you're not. What's that?
You said you're writing quite a lot of cyber.
Yes, so we get to see a lot of claims, unfortunately as well. But that's good. You gotta have claims to have anyone buying it. So but that's really allowed us to see a lot of different attack vectors, a lot of how the claims are coming in. So we've do a pretty good job about collecting it and analyzing what we're actually spending money on, and where the claims are actually coming from. And of course, ransomware is right up there, along with the traditional, employee made a mistake and disclosed something. That's probably always going to lead the way, no matter what. That's kind of the underlying point of everything. I think when I talk about cyber is, no matter what you do, no matter how much money you spend, there's always going to be employee error. Someone made a bad decision to leave a part of the cloud unprotected. Someone made a bad decision to leave a folder open on their desk. Someone, with good or bad intentions, did something wrong. But ransomware is certainly, falls into that category. It's usually enters into the system via someone opening something they shouldn't have, or not protecting the basics of security, not closing a port, something like that. So what we're really seeing is, we continue seeing multiple variants of ransomware. The the city of Atlanta has been huge in the news. It just allows everything to get really locked down, and it's really interesting to see how these come in, because sometimes at first we were paying a lot of ransoms, and then some of our larger accounts we were spending a lot of money on forensic, and then the backup. They didn't pay the ransom, but they said we do a pretty good job of backing up. Some hospital accounts, they did a great job of backing up, HIPAA compliant, but it takes so long to actually get it back up. And if you wait 48 hours, what if the backup didn't work? So they go ahead and pay as well. And of course, the ransoms started out at hundreds of dollars to thousands of dollars, now to six figures in some cases. So
I've got
ransomware
a question for you,
continues.
Jeremy.
Yeah.
Why are we seeing it more now than we were before?
I think it's become more commonplace. You can buy, these. I just was looking at a YouTube video a couple days ago, and it kind of gives you instructions on if you want to go buy an exploitation kit, about how you would do that. You just go to lots of different places, preferably for if you're a hacker, the dark net, and you can buy something pretty cheaply for a couple $100 and send it out. And there's variations, different variations, and it's just an economic model that works. Probably the two most prevalent cyber crimes right now are cryptojacking, which is taking over someone's computer and use it to mine cryptocurrency. But ransomware is definitely a close second, just because of the economic model that you can fail 1,000 times and succeed 5 times, and you come out ahead.
So what's the one thing we need to talk to our insureds about to get them to understand the importance of being vigilant about this?
Yeah, it's really, backup is the huge deal with ransomware, right? So if you are, I think there's a stat from SANS that said, let's see, 40% of SMEs don't back up their data at all, and 60% of business data is held on PCs and does not regularly get backed up. And 50% of those backups aren't really fully recoverable. So having a backup, a usable backup, is really the magic, the get out of jail free card for ransomware. There's also obviously circumstances where you're still going to consider paying a ransom because of speed, but really, if you're not backing up adequately throughout your entire enterprise, you really don't have much of a chance of being able to avoid the hassles and the really kind of devastation that can happen because of ransomware. So I think backup's the number one thing. And like we said, even if you do backup and you do everything correctly, if you look at a use case, a hospital had backup, they get a ransomware hack, their systems go down, they can't access their EMR, they're pretty much out of commission. They need to get a forensic expert involved. So they call a breach coach. If they have insurance, they can call their breach coach. They can have a legal expert, a forensic expert, and possibly a PR expert weighing in on what are our options here if we pay the ransom, if we don't pay the ransom when we rely on backup. What are, the forensic person can weigh in on what are the likelihood that the backup's going to work. If you don't have insurance, probably you don't get all those people involved and you don't make as informed of a decision. So again, back to the selling issues, it's a little bit into the weeds, but ransomware always tends to go so much better when you have resources available to you. We have a bar association that was hacked. It had a ransomware problem before they had insurance, and they just weren't able to do anything. And then unfortunately happened again when they did have insurance, and their experience was much better. That they were able to get the resources they need to take care of the problem, and it really kind of pinpoint the having insurance was very, very good thing for them, not just from a financial standpoint, but just to be able to take care and know which resources to pick. And not everyone that doesn't have a insurance carrier that has a panel at the ready would probably know who's the best on a Friday evening, who's the best forensic vendor to come and help me with this. So
Well,
lots of reasons.
we also say oftentimes that, the secret benefit of having cyber is people that can tell you what to do when the actual claim occurs. So that's certainly true. So shifting
Right.
gears a little bit, we hear a lot about this new threat, the supply chain risk. Can you tell us sort of what it is and what we need to be talking to customers about?
Yeah, sure. So there's a lot of examples, as ransomware, as all breaches, there's a lot of examples in the news, but if a supplier goes down, a payment vendor, any business critical vendor you use to make sure your business runs smoothly or your business happens, if they go down, can you sustain that? And that's really of the top 5 threats right now. That is supply chain vulnerabilities to ransomware, and the business loss incurred by clients because of supply chain loss is one of the top 5, along with just straight up ransomware and crypto hacking. It's a huge big problem. It's just a huge problem. We have addressed that in Wingman 2.0. The Access 2.0 product is going to have affirmative dependent contingent business interruption, and that means that if normal business interruption means if you have an event and you go down and you lose business income, if the policy responds. This expanded coverage means that if a third party that you rely on for mission critical work goes down and you have a business loss because you can't process payments, because you can't access your data on your cloud, then the policy kicks in as well. So that's coming in the very, very near future, hopefully in the next month or so, to our 2.0.
That brings us to the next question, and maybe it would help if we had an example for this contingent business interruption and how that plays with both supply chain risk and vendor risk. Do you have an example, one that our agents can use when talking to customers to explain to them how this applies to them?
Sure. I think the easiest thing to do is just say, who do you depend on? If one of your partners goes down, could you continue to do business? If that be a payment or your cloud services, a lot of vendors are a lot of businesses are on some sort of cloud data internet dependent network. If that goes down, you usually don't have, especially for an SME, don't have a small business doesn't have the redundancy to survive something like that. So
would that include like email or payroll services, like anything like that? It includes everything, right?
Yeah, it's where the infamous, hey, we're down, the system's down. Well, if the system's down because it just isn't working correctly or someone flipped a switch, that's not what we're really talking about here. We're talking about attack. If you get attacked, a DDoS attack, ransomware brings your system down. After a waiting period, this business interruption coverage kicks in. Same thing goes for the dependent or the contingent business interruption. When it's a third party that you rely on, they go down, then and you start losing, whether it be if you rely on email, if you rely on whatever to earn income. That's what we're talking about.
So that brings us to the next one, because it sort of all ties in. We're seeing more and more different industries that are being affected by cyber. Is anyone immune anymore?
No, I absolutely not. And I try to go down the list of NAICS codes, of thousands of NAICS codes, to find something like, yeah, that really doesn't have any exposure. I'm sure everyone's heard this before. If you use technology, or if you rely on someone that uses technology, you have an exposure. And there's really some great databases, uh, Privacy Rights Clearinghouse, a lot of free databases that, if you ever want claim example, we've published some claim examples, but we can't get to all the 2,000 businesses that are types of businesses that are eligible for coverage on the platform. But if you're targeting something and you want claim examples, real claim examples, we can say in February 3rd of 2018, this happened to this business. There's very searchable databases. I'm sure Elliot's happy to get you those for if
And
you're
I'll tell you, just to
targeting
reiterate
certain.
this point, if you ever want to fall into a really funny internet hole while doing this research, it's privacyrights.org is the website that he's talking about, and it catalogs every single piece of publicly available data on data breaches. Now, it's not going to give you ransomware necessarily if no data was breached and they didn't need to report it to anybody. But for every state that has a privacy law that requires notification to the state on what happened and how many records were breached, you can find it. And they let you search it by breach type, they let you search it by industry, they let you search it by time period, and all of the above. And it also will give you great overall year-over-year statistics to help bolster your arguments to your insureds that cyber is a need, it's no longer a want, and why. So if you ever want some help or you ever feel like you need more specific examples, privacyrights.org is a great resource. So just to ask you some more questions, what are you seeing now? What do you think the future is for privacy laws for the industry as a whole?
So do we need more regulation? Do we need a national law? I think that's going to be that's off the table for a while. All 50 states now have at least a de facto breach law, with a couple scragglers coming in at the end of 2017, early 2018. I think that we certainly see more and more risk, and we see more and more insurance vehicles being able to trying to address this need. You can buy it a lot of different places in varying limits, but I think that the solution that we have created really focuses on a couple things: simplicity, and I think it's fairly there's no equal to it out there, because I think it focuses on a couple things: simplicity. We don't really ask any underwriting questions, as important as backup is for business interruption, for ransomware. We don't ask the question. I think the it's been kind of a race to, let's see how many things we can cover. But I think if you really look at where the claims are being paid and where there's stress on our claims, where people are feeling stress, whether we write a lot of excess, so we are able to also see how other people are doing it. I think the big stressors are when you don't have a process in place from your carrier to really address what's happened and be there for you and give you a strong access to always up access to legal forensic help, and kind of let you in the door and get done what needs to get done. So I think there's a redoubling of focus on the claims departments, and I think we certainly have one of the best in the business. Another kind of great thing about ours is we're allow the decision to be made by the insured, rather than we use completely third-party forensic vendors, obviously law firms, but we don't do any of the work for you. we hire the experts and let them do it. And that's a huge distinction that has come to light in a lot of claims recently, where the insured, maybe another carrier is providing some services to the insured, and the alignment of what we want to do doesn't always match up, and that's the case a lot of times in insurance, but particularly when it's as fast moving and as breach response can be.
Great. All right, so question time. Guys who are listening, ladies who are listening, if you have any questions, don't forget to chat them to me. We really want to make sure your questions get answered. I do have a couple. One of them is, you guys, do you have any plans to include system disruption as part of your business interruption coverage?
Yes, we do. So this 2.0 that I alluded to, I'm not ducking the question, but the 2.0 is going to do four things. It's going to have dependent business interruption. It's going to provide affirmative GDPR, which I won't go into because you can find 100 webinars, YouTube videos that by someone with a cool British accent that will tell you exactly what the requirements of GDPR. They finally figured out where fines are enforceable or covered under in which countries. So we're going to be coming out with the GDPR coverage. We're going to have higher standard social engineering limits. Right now it's 100,000. It's going to jump up to 250 on everything that's quoted in the platform. And then reputation coverage, which is allows you to take certain steps that you need to take, even if there is no real the business interruption coverage has usually been, you have to have an outage and have lost income as a result of something bad happening. This reputational coverage will allow you to kind of do some things to kind of keep that from happening, keep you from losing clients or customers, whether that be expanded public PR work or just it gives you a little bit more breadth to do what you need to do when you have a breach.
Okay, I've got another question. It says, as the policy limits increase, the social engineering limit does not, but the deductible does for that coverage. Just as a note, we are increasing from 100,000 to 250,000 the limit, but yes, the sliding scale for deductible will continue to go with the policy limit. She wants to know why that is.
As the limit goes up, it's a function of controlling the premium in our admitted plan. It's if you buy a $3 million limit, I get the issue of why, just because I have a $3 million liability limit, do I have to pay a higher retention out for my social engineering? Honestly, it's a good point. I am not opposed to talking to Ellie about it.
Thank you. That's great. All right. So another question we had was about credit card chargebacks and the PCI coverage. Is it covered? Why and why not?
Yeah. So chargebacks are have a lot of interesting definitions within the payments ecosphere. So they're usually when you get a PCI assessment. So something's bad has happened. You had a breach. There were payment card data was breached. Whatever happens, the Visa, MasterCard, Discover, Amex is contacting you. The assessment that they come up with has three, and I'll try to give the 2-minute version of this. The PCI assessment has three major components. One is the fraud. The second is credit card reissuance, and the third is a penalty. So the majority of what you're paying in your assessment is a fraud charge, and the fraud charge is made up by this crazy algorithm a proprietary algorithm that each of the card companies has. Visa, MasterCard, they won't ever, even in the Target, Schnucks breaches, they never, Home Depot, they never let anyone know what they use to determine the you let them know their algorithm, how we decided that you owe $5 million. But part of the algorithm we do know, because they publish it, is the components of it are chargebacks. The cost that they had to pay, or the merchant bank or the retailer had, not the retailer, the merchant bank and the car brands had to pay because of your chargebacks. So our language says we not cover chargebacks, but within the PCI assessment, it's not called a chargeback, but in essence it is. So this just stops us from fighting about whether, hey, we had chargebacks. It's not part of the assessment yet, but we want present our bills and get coverage for this. It's essentially you're just waiting until you get the assessment, which includes the chargeback.
So I'm going to be a little bit less PC about you and say you do cover it. You just don't cover it when it's separate from the overall assessment.
That's right, and that's true of a lot of the expenses in the payment ecosphere. We usually PCI, all it does is step forward and say, we're not going to make you wait to get coverage, to have to go through a trial and a finding of fact. To use Visa, they make you agree to this and say, hey, you owe us this. We're not going to take you to court and prove that you did this. It's going to be hard to do, but part of playing ball here is that you're going to pay this money. And
Right.
the PCI endorsement just is us stepping up and say, okay, we realize, we understand the ecosphere here, and we're going to step in and pay this.
All right, we've got time for one last question. So here's what it is. The Access product comes up against some competition recently, NAS, Beasley, the 500 products that are currently operated by CFC. What do you think keeps the Access product different? What makes it better? What would you call the selling points?
Yeah, we've obviously been competing against all those guys for a long time, and the one thing that I think the platform offering does is, I just was speaking to a major wholesaler today, and I can pretty confidently say that nothing. Okay, it looks better, yeah, but you can get a policy for someone, and it's not a watered down policy. It's a very robust policy without having to answer, if you say I have a backup, maybe another carrier, I don't do backups, another carrier is going to take away your business interruption coverage. If you say I don't do my social engineering procedures aren't what they should be, they're going to take away your social engineering, or you maybe get another tier of coverage. This is a off the shelf, fully loaded. You don't have to jump through hoops to get it, and I think that's at the very core. It's maybe not designed for it's intentionally not designed for national account, large account business, because we want to know more about the account in that case, and you're going to want some more nuance in your coverage. But this has all the bells and whistles, and it doesn't ask any questions, remove coverage, bring you up and down. It is what it is, and it allows you, as a broker, you can't spend 2 hours analyzing coverage for some of these small, $1,000 premiums. It really is a solution for that. We're coming up with new solutions so we can be a little bit more holistic to compete against, a bit larger account that needs a little bit more nuance. But for the need out there to get more and more and more, hundreds of accounts that you have within your portfolio to buy cyber, it's certainly is a path of least resistance, and
Well, thank you for
that
that.
doesn't offer, watered down coverage.
So since he patted me on the back, I will pat him on the back and say, but the underwriting team and the claims handling department are extraordinary at Access. If there is ever a problem, things get handled very quickly and efficiently, just like our system does with the quoting. And we're really happy to have been able to partner with Access. So our time has come to a close. I want to thank you, Jeremy, for your time today. If anybody has any follow-up questions, you can email me at ellie@wingmanins.com or give us a call, and we will be happy to answer any of your questions that you might have now or in the future. We really appreciate you guys taking some time out of your day today to get some of your questions answered. I hope we were able to do that. Thank you for your business, and we hope to work more with all of you in the future. Thank you.